Once again, my humble greetings to you, Stevens. Best wishes for the new year and all the viewers of Newzroom Afrika.
And to you.
Yeah, maybe to respond.
Yeah.
Yeah, to respond to your question. No, I don't think, the ANC provincial chairperson in Limpopo, Mathabatha, is jumping the gun at all. He's not jumping the gun. Remember, the ANC has got this, historic principle that says ventilate within the formal structures of the ANC. They discourage members to go outside the parameters and boundaries of the ANC to express their political views. They always encourage members, cadres, and leaders to express their views within the confines of the formal structures of the ANC. And bear in mind that the 110th, anniversary celebrations of the ANC was a formal political structure of the ANC. So Mathabatha was politically and loyally correct to express his viewpoints within the formal political structure of the ANC. That's why you can't even lay any charge, because he expressed that viewpoint within the formal political structure of the ANC. So I don't think he was jumping the gun. He was just expressing the position of the Limpopo Provincial Executive Committee when it comes to the future presidential, ambitions of the current President Ramaphosa.
It does mean, though, there wasn't a process first. Branches would normally meet, they would discuss, it would go to regions, would go to a provincial meeting. None of that seemed to happen here. Despite that, do you think he's speaking with some kind of mandate?
Remember, you'll agree with me, Stephen, that we are now counting plus or minus 10 months, calendar months, ahead of the ANC elective national conference. Obviously, if you are following developments across different branches of the ANC in the country, they've already started talking about the forthcoming national elective conference. It's not like they're still left with 2 years or 3 years. We are now counting 10 calendar months before the convening of the elective national conference of the ANC. It's not only Limpopo that has started debating as to what kind of quality of leadership will they prefer, in the next coming national conference. So I don't think it's premature. This is the right time for any national political organization to can start debating as to what kind of brand or quality of leadership will they expect to have when the elective national conference comes. Because you can't wait up until the very same day of the national conference to start debating as to who must be a leader or who must not be a leader. I think it will be foolhardy. The ANC must start to modernize their electoral and campaign processes. Gone are those days when they used, to discuss secretly within the confines of secrecy when they were talking about leadership. But remember, the secret discussions that the ANC used to have pre-1990 was necessitated by the fact that apartheid security forces was hunting the ANC on a daily basis. So it was not easy for the ANC to discuss leadership preferences openly and publicly because it was a dangerous exercise. But post-1994, now we are living in a democratic era. The ANC must start to modernize, their electoral processes. They must encourage members to start to debate as to who must lead or who must be voted out.
So we've got this backing for President Ramaphosa. It seems the Northern Cape may go the same way. Do you think anyone's going to challenge him? David Mabuza, the deputy president, but his constituency in Mpumalanga seems to have gone from one faction to 4, depending on which version you believe. Do you think anyone's going to come forward and actually challenge President Ramaphosa?
Yeah, Stephen, post-1990, if you gauge, the political unfoldings in the ANC, you will realize that there's never been a situation whereby an incumbent president of the ANC failed to secure a second term, especially when such a presidential incumbent needs it. With the exception of Nelson Mandela in 1997, you are aware that Nelson Mandela made it very quite clear that he only wants a single term as president of the ANC. But all ANC presidents since 1990, whenever they needed a second term, they were definitely successfully voted into power. But currently, the blessing in disguise for the president is that in as much as there are those who are opposed to Ramaphosa within the ANC in terms of factionalism, his detractors were not able to craft a credible presidential material who can replace Cyril Ramaphosa. They spend most of their time obsessing over his political downfall, but they forgot to create an alternative presidential candidate who can square up to Ramaphosa. And that's where the so-called the RET faction finds itself. They are making noise on a daily basis against Ramaphosa, but they were not able to create a suitable presidential candidate who can take over Ramaphosa. That's why you find a situation, even in the Eastern Cape in Limpopo, whereby those who were opposed to Ramaphosa in terms of factionalism are now rallying behind Ramaphosa because they don't want a vacuum. They want stability in the ANC. Even if they are against Ramaphosa, but they are saying, who can replace him? And up to now, the ANC was not prepared to can offer a credible alternative to Ramaphosa. Hence, a possibility that Ramaphosa might be given a second term. And not because they want him, but there is no any other credible alternative who can replace him.
Lindiwe Sisulu, the tourism minister, I mean, she seems to be saying something. There was this op-ed piece in IOL. She seemed to be attacking sort of law, maybe the rule of law and judges. Another piece in City Press yesterday. A series of quite big comments. Could she be up to something, Elvis?
Yeah, Stephen, it's very interesting because when you observe, the historical trends in the ANC, there have been two types of leaders when it comes to the presidency. You had presidential materials and those who were available. And in most instances, you count from 1912, all elective national conferences of the ANC, they always voted for a presidential material rather than the person who is available. Remember, the ANC as a liberation movement believe in the principle that they groom their own leaders. You must be groomed for a particular considerable amount of time to become a provincial chairperson or to become a deputy president and even a president of the ANC. They don't concentrate on those who are raising their hands and say, I'm available. Historically, you check all those who said they were available. They were never voted into the presidency of the ANC. The ANC historically believed in grooming its own leaders to occupy a particular political position at a given time. That's why even, you remember at the inaugural meeting of the ANC in 1912, there was a very heated factional debate in the first meeting of the ANC. They couldn't agree who must be the president because there were two presidential material, Pixley Kaisakaseme and John Langalibalele Dube. The meeting was divided in 1912. For more than 3 hours, there was a stalemate. They couldn't agree whether Langalibalele Dube must be the first president or Pixley Kaisakaseme. Up until when Walter Khubusana developed a compromise and said to them that, comrades, because Pixley Kaisakaseme is 10 years younger than John Langalibalele Dube, let's allow John Langalibalele Dube as a senior in terms of age to be the president, and Pixley Kaisakaseme's term will come at a later stage. That's how they agreed. But there were only two presidential materials. But if you are available in the ANC, you stand, very small chances of being elected.
I think I've read between the lines there, Elvis. I think I know what you're suggesting. I don't think Lindiwe Sisulu is going to be very pleased with the way that I understand what you're saying. Within all of this, I mean, the other big story of the year, right, it's going to be the Zondo Commission report, possibly. So you've got President Cyril Ramaphosa basically saying that the ANC needs to cleanse itself from corruption. And this has been said before, it's no surprise. But it's going to come under intense pressure to act on the report in two ways. The one is to make sure that it's implemented by the criminal justice system. That's fine, that's not really the ANC's problem. It is, but it isn't. But then also, within itself, within its own structures, are people who, I suspect, are going to have findings made against them as the Zondo Commission report unfolds when the second and third parts are published. Is the ANC actually going to be able to deal with that? I mean, what happens, it hasn't happened yet, but it may well happen, when an NEC member, someone on the NEC now, is implicated, a finding against them in the Zondo Commission report when Part 2 or Part 3 are released?
Yeah, Stevens, one thing that I've become accustomed to is that both the two dominant and rival factions in the ANC currently, the CR17 on the one hand, and the Zuma faction on the other, all of them, they are fully aware that corruption is paralyzing the liberation movement. Corruption is about to send the ANC into early political grave. Corruption, has a great potential to render the ANC a former governing party in South Africa. It's quite clear. Judging by the recent municipal elections, the ANC dipped below 50% for the first time. And if you analyze, the causal factors, corruption is the leading and biggest contributing factor to the loss of support for the ANC. So both factions, even though they are at each other's throats, they both agree that corruption must be dealt with because it is eating away at the moral and revolutionary fabric of the ANC. So that's why everybody's encouraging even President Ramaphosa to go on when it comes to organizational renewal, because corruption threatens the liberation's ideals of the ANC, threatens what the ANC always stand for, to serve the people, to create a better life for the people. You can't create a better life for the people if you allow corruption to thrive supreme. And that's why even the likes of Limpopo ANC are beginning to support the president when it comes to organizational renewal, to say they must viciously fight against corruption, even if it means they need to deal harshly with their own comrades. Let it be, because you can't take the side of corruption and risk the possibility of losing the power as a liberation movement. And I think that's where they stand. And it creates an opportunity for Ramaphosa to stand the possibility of being re-elected unopposed. Not to say they like him, but they are aware that what is fighting against, which is corruption, is the very same thing that is threatening the existence of the ANC.
It's quite an important year, and this last happened a decade ago. We have the SACP conference, COSATU conference, and the ANC itself at the end of the year. Do you think this time next year, so 2023, I can't believe we're talking about it already, but here we are, Elvis, do you think the ANC is going to come out of this year more united or more divided than it is now? And that's really a key question going into 2024. So more united or more divided at the end of the year, the ANC?
Yeah, you yourself, I know you are a political historian, Stevens. You'll agree with me that maybe we need to take a brief glimpse into the history of the ANC to understand whether can they survive, if they survive right now or not. There were so many disastrous and cataclysmic, epochal events in history that could have thrown the ANC into extinction, that could have paralyzed the ANC. But mysteriously, it survived. Like I gave an example, the first inaugural meeting of the ANC on the 8th of January 1912, to a point whereby, two factions were not prepared to compromise up until Walter Khabusana has to prevail in terms of the sense of reason. What happened to the conference of 1930? The most chaotic conference that could have killed the ANC, a contest between incumbent President Josiah Tsangana Gumede and Pixley Kaisakaseme. You remember the Gang of Eight that were rebelling against the ANC, to a point whereby Oliver Tambo in 1975 has to take a bold decision and expel them. It could have paralyzed the ANC. The Gang of Four that was expelled from the ANC in 1984 because it wanted to turn the ANC into a socialist and a communist organization. So there were so many disastrous historical moments that could have paralyzed the ANC, but mysteriously they survived. But as to whether the ANC can survive right now, I'm not sure. But maybe they must look into history so that they can draw some valuable lessons on how to deal with contemporary challenges.